The Galactic Consortium's invasion of Earth was, by all technical standards, perfect. No explosions. No dramatic battles. Not even a single inspirational speech from a grizzled president standing on a fighter jet. Just 7,000 perfectly synchronized teleportation events that replaced every major government building on the planet with identical chrome structures housing identical chrome aliens. Commander Vex Orion stood on the observation deck of his flagship, gazing down at the blue-green planet through 6 independently rotating eyes. His carapace gleamed in the artificial light as he stretched his primary appendages in what passed for satisfaction among the Trilaxians. Magnificent execution, wouldn't you agree, Lieutenant? Vex's voice was a modulated series of clicks that the ship's translator converted into something approximating smugness. Lieutenant Krill, a gangly Proxian with translucent skin that revealed his constantly churning internal organs, consulted his datapad. Yes, Commander. Exactly as the simulations predicted. Minimal resistance, approximately 27 Earth minutes from first insertion to complete governmental control. Let history record that the Consortium's 53rd planetary acquisition was its most efficient yet, Vex declared. The humans will submit, as all species do when faced with our technological superiority. I anticipate full cultural integration within one standard lunar cycle. A junior communications officer approached, her bioluminescent antenna dimming respectfully. Commander, we're receiving unusual transmissions from the surface. Surrender terms, no doubt, Vex said dismissively. Route them to diplomatic processing. That's just it, sir. They're not exactly surrender terms. Vex's central eye swiveled toward her. Explain. The humans are broadcasting what appear to be reaction videos. And something called memes. Our cultural analysts are struggling to interpret the meaning, but they seem to be laughing. Laughing. Vex's voice modulator strained to convey his disbelief. At a Class 7 invasion, that's unprecedented. Lieutenant Krill cleared his throat equivalent, a sound like marbles in a garbage disposal. Perhaps it's a stress response, sir. The psychological literature suggests some species resort to humor as a coping mechanism when facing existential threats. Irrelevant, Vex said, waving a tentacle. The protocol is clear. We've replaced their leadership, controlled their communications infrastructure and deployed our administrative units. Whether they laugh or cry, makes no difference to the outcome. But as the Earth rotated beneath them, something strange began happening. Instead of the expected chaos, panic, or even armed resistance, the planet's electronic communications networks lit up with activity. Not the desperate coordination of a resistance movement, but something far more perplexing. Humans were creating content. Billions of messages, images, videos and broadcasts, all seemingly focused on the invasion, but not in any way the Consortium's extensive psychological warfare division had predicted. Sir, the communications officer said, her antenna now practically dimmed to darkness. They've created a unified global broadcast. It's being transmitted on all frequencies, including some we didn't know they had access to. Show me, Vex commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing what appeared to be a human in a poorly constructed costume meant to resemble a Trilaxian. The human was performing an exaggerated walk while another human provided narration. And here we see the mighty alien conqueror, who traveled 17 light-years to tell us our planet has too much water and our music is too loud. Laughter erupted from an unseen audience. Vex's exoskeleton creaked as he stiffened. Is this, are they mocking us? Lieutenant Krill studied his datapad with growing concern. Sir, this broadcast is being received by 37 neighboring star systems, including 3 that were on our future acquisition list. Commander Vex's eyes rotated in conflicting directions, a sign of severe distress in Trilaxians. This wasn't in the invasion handbook. Get me our cultural specialist immediately. The humans aren't mourning their conquest, they're turning it into entertainment. As the flagship's crew scrambled to make sense of humanity's inexplicable response, none of them noticed the small innocuous satellites detaching from Earth's orbiting debris fields and quietly positioning themselves throughout the solar system. Operation Petty Revenge had begun, and the Galactic Consortium had no idea what they were in for. 3 solar days after the invasion, the Consortium's diplomatic corps was experiencing something unprecedented in its 12,000-year history: genuine confusion. Chief Diplomatic Officer Mela Zur, a willowy Venturi with skin that shifted colors with her emotions, currently cycling through anxious purples and bewildered greens, stood before the hastily assembled Human Transitional Council in what had formerly been the United Nations building in New York. I don't understand, Mela said, her translator struggling to convey the appropriate level of diplomatic befuddlement. You've accepted our terms of surrender, Jack Novak. The hastily appointed human representative leaned back in his chair with a casualness that bordered on disrespect. A former advertising executive with a penchant for loud ties, today's featured dancing tacos, Novak had been chosen not for his political experience, but for what Earth's remaining leadership called his unparalleled bullshit artistry. Oh, absolutely, Novak replied, taking a casual sip from his coffee mug emblazoned with world's best species representative. We humans know when we're beaten. Completely and utterly outmatched. Your 7,000 teleporting buildings. Masterful. Simply masterful. Mela's skin shifted to a cautious yellow. Your compliance is appreciated. We're just happy you folks chose the buildings, Novak continued, gesturing expansively. I mean, can you imagine if you'd replaced our coffee shops instead, or our streaming services? Now that would have been grounds for resistance. He chuckled at his own pun. Lieutenant Krill, standing at attention behind Mela, leaned forward to whisper, our intelligence indicates their coffee infrastructure is indeed vital to their civilization's functioning. Perhaps we should. Not now, Mela hissed before returning her attention to Novak. Your species' cooperation will make the integration process much smoother. We simply require you to sign these 3,000 pages of consortium regulations, and we can begin the assimilation of your culture into our galactic database. Novak examined his fingernails. Sure. But first we have some minor adjustments to propose. Nothing major, just some tiny inconsequential additions to the standard surrender package. Mela's skin flushed a skeptical orange. Additions? The consortium does not negotiate surrender terms. Oh, these aren't negotiations, Novak said, sliding a tablet across the table. Just some clarifications. For instance, Article 17b now specifies that Earth maintains exclusive broadcast rights to all invasion footage. And Article 23d grants us permission to create merchandise based on consortium species. Merchandise. Mela's translator struggled with the concept. You know, t-shirts, action figures, breakfast cereals shaped like your command. Novak glanced at his notes. Vex Orion's adorable little head tentacles. Mela's skin rapidly cycled through shocked reds and alarmed purples. This is highly irregular. The consortium has strict protocols regarding the dignity of its representatives. Novak shrugged. Well, if you'd prefer not to sign, we completely understand. We'll just have to resort to Plan B. Which is? Mela asked, her skin now a wary lavender. Honestly, no idea. I'm just the guy who showed up to the meeting. Novak's smile was disarmingly genuine. But I'm sure it involves a lot more paperwork for everyone, and nobody wants that, right? 3 hours and 17 cups of coffee later, Mela found herself signing the modified surrender agreement, her skin a defeated gray. The human amendments seemed harmless enough, mostly media rights, cultural exchange protocols, and something called meme immunity that the translation software couldn't quite parse. As she pressed her bioelectric signature to the final page, Novak beamed. Excellent. I think this marks the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The consortium does not engage in friendship, Mela corrected primly. We engage in hierarchical dominance relationships, where your species serves as a cultural and resource tributary to our vast galactic network. Potato, Novak replied with a wink. Now about those action figures, would Commander Vex prefer a kung fu grip or voice activation? Back on the flagship, Commander Vex was growing increasingly concerned. The planet's electronic communications hadn't diminished as expected following the invasion. Instead, they had increased by 341%, with a particularly strange concentration on something called TikTok and RateMyelianOverlord.com. Lieutenant, Vex called, his voice modulator struggling to maintain its authoritative tone. What exactly did our diplomatic team agree to? Lieutenant Krill studied his datapad, his translucent organs working overtime. According to the finalized agreement, sir, we've granted humans exclusive rights to roast the ever-loving crap out of us across all known and yet to be discovered media platforms. And what precisely does roasts mean in this context? Before Krill could answer, the flagship's emergency broadcast system activated, and every screen on the ship suddenly displayed the same image. A crudely photoshopped picture of Commander Vex with giant googly eyes and the caption, "When the conquering aliens realize humans have 7,000 different words for trolling." Vex's exoskeleton made an ominous cracking sound. I believe I'm beginning to understand. Communications Officer Plex Taro was having the worst rotation of her 15-cycle career with the consortium. A meadow-son with gelatinous, semi-transparent flesh and neural pathways that glowed like fiber optic cables when she was stressed. Plex was currently lighting up like a malfunctioning holiday decoration. Commander, she called from her station on the flagship's bridge. I've completed the analysis of Earth's transmission patterns over the past 17 rotations, and well, I don't know how to explain it, sir. Commander Vex, who had barely left the bridge since the googly eyes incident, now officially classified as a diplomatic emergency, swiveled 3 of his 6 eyes toward her. Officer Taro, at this point, nothing about this miserable blue planet would surprise me. Proceed. Plex's tentacles fluttered nervously as she projected a holographic display in the center of the bridge. It showed a complex web of signals emanating from Earth, forming patterns that shifted and pulsed in seemingly random configurations. Initially, we assumed these were just their normal communication patterns, Plex explained. But there's an underlying structure. These signals are coordinated, following mathematical sequences that are too precise to be coincidental. Lieutenant Krill squinted his compound eyes at the display. Some kind of resistance communication network. That was my first thought, Plex admitted. But the content of the transmissions doesn't support that theory. They're sending entertainment, shows, songs, images, something called memes that feature us in increasingly bizarre scenarios. One depicts you as something called a DJ, Commander, spinning Earth on your tentacle while wearing something called bling. Vex's exoskeleton creaked dangerously. I am familiar with the concept, Officer Taro, continue. Yes, sir. The strange part is, these transmissions aren't just internal to Earth, they're being broadcast outward, far beyond their technological capabilities should allow, and they're being received, Commander, by everyone. Define everyone, Vex demanded, a sense of dread creeping into his voice modulator. Every consortium world, every neutral territory, even the Void Collective, and they haven't acknowledged an external transmission in 3 millennia. Plex's neural pathways were now pulsing so brightly that several bridge officers had to shield their visual receptors. Sir, the humans are using our own relay network. That's impossible, Lieutenant Krill interjected. The consortium's quantum relay system is encrypted with. I know what it's encrypted with, Plex interrupted, her gelatinous form quivering with anxiety. But they're not hacking it. They're using the administrative access we granted them in the surrender agreement. What administrative access? Vex's voice had gone dangerously quiet. Plex projected a section of the agreement. Subsection 42J. Paragraph 7. For purposes of cultural integration and species harmony, Earth representatives shall be granted standard cultural exchange privileges on the consortium unified network. And who authorized that? Vex's eye stalks were now rigid with fury. Before anyone could answer, every screen on the bridge suddenly switched to a new broadcast. A human female with bright purple hair stood in what appeared to be a bedroom plastered with hastily made consortium species posters. What's up, Galaxy? It's ya girl, Space Kitten 94, coming at you with another Aliens React video. Today, we'll be showing our new overlords something we call dad jokes and measuring their cringe level. Don't forget to quantum like and subscribe. The broadcast cut to a montage of confused consortium officials being subjected to human humor. Their responses measured on something called the Universal Cringe-O-Meter. Turn it off, Vex commanded. I can't, sir, Plex admitted miserably. It's being broadcast on the emergency channel. Protocol requires it to play for at least. Why did the alien cross the galaxy? Came the cheerful voice from the screen. There was a painful pause. To get to the other tide. Get it? Because they're so uptight. Uproarious laughter followed, while the consortium official on screen appeared to be contemplating immediate self-termination. 372 billion views, Plex whispered in horror, reading the metrics scrolling across the bottom of the broadcast. And that's just in the Andromeda sector. Commander Vex's eye stalks drooped in defeat. Officer Taro, what exactly are they coordinating with these transmissions? What's their endgame? Plex's neural pathways dimmed slightly as she entered analysis mode. The pattern suggests they're building towards something, sir. These broadcasts, these memes, they're preparing the galaxy for. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's happening soon. The mathematical progression indicates culmination within the next rotation. As if on cue, every officer's personal communication device chimed simultaneously. They had all received the same notification from something called Galactic Talk. Humans going live in 24 hours. The greatest show in cosmic history. Commander Vex doesn't want you to see this. Lieutenant Krill looked up from his device, his translucent organs now practically tied in knots. Sir, what exactly is a diss track? Vex didn't answer. He was too busy watching as, outside the viewport, Earth's continents began to light up in a perfectly synchronized pattern, visible even from orbit. Whatever the humans were planning, it was already too late to stop it. Commander Vex Orion had experienced many emotions during his illustrious 347-cycle career with the Galactic Consortium. Pride at his first planetary subjugation, satisfaction at his promotion to the flagship, even mild amusement when the Pleiadian resistance accidentally weaponized their own sun and gave themselves collective sunburn. But never, in all his years of conquering, had he experienced dread quite like this. "They've done what?" he asked, his voice modulator, struggling to maintain its dignified tone. Lieutenant Krill, whose internal organs had been churning so violently for the past rotation that several junior officers had complained of motion sickness just from looking at him, consulted his datapad for the 17th time. "They've trademarked us, sir. Trademarked us." Each word emerged from Vex's speech synthesizer like a separate surrender document. "Yes, Commander. According to Consortium legal, the humans have filed and been granted intellectual property rights to the likeness, sound and general vibe of all Consortium species involved in the Earth invasion. They own the rights to our images, our names, even our—" Krill's voice faltered, "our merchandise potential." The bridge fell silent. Even the constant hum of the quantum engine seemed subdued, as if the ship itself was embarrassed. "How?" Vex finally managed. "How could they possibly have legal standing in Consortium courts?" Plex Taro, who hadn't slept in 3 rotations and whose neural pathways now pulsed with the dull glow of exhaustion, spoke up from her communications station. "The surrender agreement, sir. Section 19, paragraph 12, subclause F. In the spirit of cultural integration, Earth's legal frameworks shall be considered compatible with Consortium statutes for purposes of entertainment and intellectual property. And I signed this." Vex's eye stalks drooped so low they nearly touched his command console. "Not directly, sir," Krill offered helpfully. "The diplomatic corps did. Technically, they had full authority under Invasion Protocol 7. What exactly does this trademark allow them to do?" Vex asked, dreading the answer. Before anyone could respond, the ship's emergency broadcast system activated once again. This time, the screen showed a sleek advertising montage featuring Consortium species in positions that could only be described as undignified. "Feeling tired, sluggish, like you've conquered one too many planets this week?" A smooth human voice narrated as the video showed a Trilaxian, clearly Commander Vex, though with absurdly exaggerated eye stalks, struggling to climb out of bed. "Try new Commander Vex's Galactic Energy drink, with 6 tentacles of flavor in every can." The commercial cut to the same Trilaxian caricature, now chugging a garishly colored beverage before performing an elaborate dance routine. "Conquer your day the Vex way," flashed across the screen in pulsating letters. "Is that supposed to be me?" Vex asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm afraid so, sir," Krill confirmed. "And it's being broadcast across 17 sectors. The Void Collective has already ordered 6 billion cases." "Ordered? They're actually selling this abomination?" "Yes, Commander. Along with action figures, Holovision series, something called body pillows." And Krill hesitated. "Themed bathroom products." Vex's exoskeleton made a sound like crumpling aluminum. "Bathroom products. The Vex Flex cleansing tentacle is particularly popular in the Orion arm," Plex added helpfully, before withering under her commander's glare. But the humans weren't done. As the commercial ended, the broadcast switched to a live feed from Earth. Jack Novak stood on a massive stage, wearing what appeared to be a crude costume meant to mimic Commander Vex's distinctive exoskeleton. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed real-time viewer counts from across the galaxy. "Greetings, sentient beings of all configurations," Novak announced to thunderous applause. "Welcome to the first annual Galactic Roast of the Consortium." The numbers on the display ticked rapidly upward, quickly surpassing the population of several mid-sized star systems. "Tonight, we humble Earthlings are honored to host representatives from across the galaxy for the comedy event of the millennium," Novak continued. "And our special guests of honor, the Consortium species who thought they were conquering us but actually just signed up to be the galaxy's biggest laughingstock, are watching right now from their flagship. Let's give Commander Vex and his crew a round of applause, folks. They came to take our planet, but instead became our greatest export." The camera panned to show an audience filled not just with humans, but with representatives from dozens of alien species, many from worlds the Consortium had previously conquered. This is. Vex struggled to find words. "Brilliant marketing, sir," Krill offered, earning himself an immediate reassignment to waste management in his mind. As the roast continued, The true extent of humanity's Operation Petty Revenge became horrifyingly clear. They hadn't fought the invasion with weapons or resistance. They had weaponized something far more powerful: galactic public opinion. The humans didn't just accept our conquest, Plex realized aloud, her neural pathways glowing with sudden understanding. They rebranded it as their own cultural event. They're not our subjects, they've turned us into their content. And the rest of the galaxy is eating it up. Krill added, gesturing to the viewership numbers, which now exceeded the known population of the universe. Sir, I think some beings are creating multiple accounts just to watch this multiple times. On screen, Novak had been joined by representatives from 3 different consortium-conquered worlds, all taking turns, delivering what humans called sick burns, about the consortium's invasion techniques, fashion choices, and personal hygiene practices. And have you seen their ships? A Centaurian ambassador was saying. Compensating much. I haven't seen anything that unnecessarily large since the Blorgans tried to use a gas giant as a hot tub. The audience roared with laughter as the camera deliberately cut to a reaction shot from the flagship's bridge, a feed the humans shouldn't have had access to, but somehow did anyway. Commander Vex Orion, 6-time recipient of the consortium's Most Efficient Conqueror Award, sank slowly into his command chair as the realization dawned on him. The humans had never intended to fight their conquest. They had simply found a way to profit from it. And in doing so, they had conquered the consortium right back. Commander Vex Orion had been summoned to explain himself to the Consortium High Council, an event roughly as pleasant as having one's eye stalks used as percussion instruments. The summons had arrived with the highest priority designation, which was troubling. The transmission that followed from Supreme Councilor Dawes himself was unprecedented. Vex, the ancient Palaxian, had said, his crystalline features refracting light in patterns that signified extreme distress, "What in the 18 moons of Calaxis have you done?" Now, as Vex stood before the council in their virtual chamber, none of them willing to risk appearing in person lest they be memed as well, he struggled to maintain his dignified posture. "Supreme Councilors," he began carefully, "I can explain the Earth's situation." "Please do," Councilor Dawes responded, his crystal facets flashing dangerous reds and oranges. "Explain why I awoke this morning to find my own offspring wearing Commander Vex underwear, and asking if they could have an Earth-style conquest party for their spawning day celebration." Vex's exoskeleton threatened to crack under the pressure. The humans have proven unexpectedly resourceful in their response to standard conquest protocols. Resourceful, another counselor, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate floating sphere, expanded indignantly. "They've made us the laughingstock of 17 galaxies. My homeworld's atmospheric composition has changed by 3% due to excessive laughter emissions." Projected displays around the chamber showed real-time data that made Vex's primary heart valve stutter, merchandise sales in the quintillions, broadcast viewership numbers that defied mathematical logic, and tourism bookings to Earth that had increased by 8,700% in the past rotation alone. Tourism, Vex couldn't help but ask, his voice modulator squeaking on the final syllable. "Yes, Commander," Councilor Dawes confirmed grimly. "It seems every being with access to interstellar travel suddenly wants to visit the planet that, and I quote, totally punked the consortium." On one display, Vex could see live footage from Earth, lines of alien tourists wrapped around city blocks, waiting to take selfies with human comedians, and purchase overpriced souvenirs. A popular attraction appeared to be something called Vex's Vanquished Vanity Tour, where visitors could watch dramatic reenactments of the commander's most embarrassing moments, many of which were entirely fabricated. "The Void Collective has opened diplomatic relations with Earth," a serpentine counselor hissed from her perch. "The Void Collective, they haven't acknowledged another species since the dawn of recorded history. And the Arcturian Federation is considering changing their official language to Englishes, because they find human idioms delightfully sassy," another counselor added. Supreme Councilor Dawes raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "Commander Vex, the situation is clear. Your conquest of Earth has resulted in the most significant shift in galactic power dynamics since the consortium's formation, and not in our favor." "With all due respect, counselors," Vex protested, "I followed the invasion handbook precisely. The humans simply exploited loopholes we didn't know existed. Loopholes such as," Dawes's facets darkened ominously, "such as our complete lack of intellectual property protections against being turned into bathroom cleaning products," Vex admitted miserably. The chamber fell silent, the only sound the occasional ping of new merchandise sales figures updating on the displays. Finally, Councilor Dawes spoke. "Commander, your mission parameters have changed. You are hereby ordered to salvage what dignity remains for the consortium. Negotiate with the humans. Find out what they want. what they want. But we conquered them. They should be telling us what we want. And yet, Dawes observed dryly, my morning nutritional supplement came in a container shaped like your head, which splits open at the mouth to dispense the liquid. The humans are clearly operating from a different conquest manual than ours. As if on cue, a notification appeared on every counselor's personal device simultaneously. The humans had just announced a new galactic streaming service called Consortium Minus, featuring all the best roasts, memes, and embarrassing footage of your favorite galactic conquerors. Subscription fees are quite reasonable, one counselor noted, before quickly deactivating their device under Dawes's withering gaze. Return to Earth, Commander, Dawes ordered. Fix this, before I start seeing my own crystalline structure on undergarments across the known universe. The return journey to Earth was the longest of Vex's career. His flagship, once a symbol of Consortium might, was now constantly surrounded by tourist vessels, whose occupants pressed their various sensory appendages against viewports hoping to catch a glimpse of the galaxy's most memeable commander. Lieutenant Krill, who had somehow maintained his position despite his unhelpful commentary, approached Vex on the bridge. Sir, we've received a transmission from Earth. They're requesting your presence at something called Comic-Con. Denied, Vex said automatically. They're offering to renegotiate certain trademark applications, Krill added hesitantly. Specifically, the Vex-branded personal hygiene products. Vex's eye stalks drooped in defeat. Set course for this Comic-Con, and prepare my formal exoskeleton. About that, sir, Krill said, his internal organs churning nervously. They've requested you wear something called a cosplay of your meme self. They've sent design specifications. The designs, when Vex reviewed them, featured his likeness but with grotesquely exaggerated eye stalks, sparkly appendages, and something called jazz hands. As the flagship entered Earth orbit, Vex could see that the planet had transformed. Massive billboards visible from space advertised, the conquest that conquered the conquerors, and Vex appeal. Catch the commander's new reality show. Sir, Communications Officer Plex called from her station, her neural pathways pulsing with what almost looked like excitement. We're receiving priority transmission from the Supreme Counselor. Put it through, Vex said, bracing himself for another dressing down. Instead, Counselor Dawes appeared uncharacteristically composed. Commander, there's been a development. The Consortium's economic division reports our revenue has increased 3,000% since the Earth situation began. Revenue, Vex repeated, baffled. Yes, it seems we negotiated a 2% stake in all Consortium-themed merchandise as part of the standard conquest protocol. No one expected it to ever amount to anything, of course. But with current sales figures, Dawes's crystal facets gleamed with what could only be described as avarice. The Council has reconsidered its position on Earth. You want me to continue allowing this humiliation? Vex couldn't believe his auditory receptors. The Council prefers the term strategic cultural integration, Dawes corrected. Your new orders are to fully cooperate with Earth's entertainment initiatives, including personal appearances. The transmission ended before Vex could protest, leaving him staring at the rapidly approaching planet that had somehow conquered its conquerors without firing a single shot. Sir, Lieutenant Krill said, holding up the ridiculous cosplay outfit, shall I help you with the sequins? As the flagship prepared for landing at what had once been a government complex but was now apparently VexCon headquarters, Commander Vex Orion, decorated military strategist, feared conqueror of 17 worlds, and now reluctant galactic celebrity, realized that humanity had invented a form of warfare the Consortium had never encountered before. They had weaponized humiliation, and turned it into profit. And somehow, impossibly, everyone except Vex himself seemed delighted by it. 6 standard rotations later, Commander Vex Orion sat in what had once been his private command quarters, but now served as the set for Keeping Up with the Consortium, the highest-rated reality show in recorded galactic history. A human camera crew buzzed around him, adjusting lighting and sound equipment with practiced efficiency. We're live in 5, Commander. The human director called cheerfully. Remember, just be yourself. Except you know, more dramatic. The audience loves it when your eye stalks do that twitchy thing. Vex deliberately made his eye stalks remain perfectly still. A small act of rebellion that would likely be edited out in post-production anyway. The door slid open, and Jack Novak sauntered in, now sporting the official title of Supreme Galactic Media Liaison, according to his holographic name badge. His tie today featured tiny animated Vexes dancing the Macarena. Big day, Commander, Novak exclaimed, dropping into the seat opposite Vex. The ratings for yesterday's Vex Tries Ice Cream segment broke every record in the Andromeda Galaxy. The moment where you got brain freeze and all 6 eyes rolled in different directions. Pure gold. Delightful, Vex replied. his voice modulator set to its flattest possible tone. Is there a purpose to this meeting beyond my continued humiliation? Actually, yes, Novak said, suddenly serious. He gestured for the camera crew to leave, an unprecedented occurrence that made Vex's primary heart valve skip a beat. When they were alone, Novak leaned forward. I wanted to thank you personally. Thank me. Vex's eye stalks betrayed him with a confused twitch. For being such a good sport, Novak said. I know this isn't what you expected when you conquered Earth. That, Vex admitted, is an understatement worthy of galactic record. Novak chuckled. Look, between us, this whole thing, Operation Petty Revenge, it wasn't just about embarrassing the consortium. You've succeeded spectacularly at that regardless. Vex noted dryly. Sure, but that was just phase 1. Novak pulled out a datapad and slid it across the table. Take a look at these figures. Vex's multiple eyes focused on the screen, widening as he absorbed the information. These are galactic peace statistics. Novak confirmed. Conflict down 78%. Diplomatic relations established between previously hostile species up 92%. Interstellar trade increased by 341%. Because everyone's too busy watching humans make fools of us to wage war, Vex asked skeptically. Partly, Novak admitted. But mainly because we gave the galaxy something it desperately needed, a common culture. For the first time in cosmic history, every species, from the Void Collective to the Arcturian Federation, is laughing at the same jokes, watching the same shows, sharing the same memes. Understanding dawned slowly across Vex's features. You unified the galaxy, through entertainment. Exactly. Novak beamed. Turns out shared humor is a more effective diplomatic tool than shared enemies. Who knew? And the consortium's role in all this? Well, technically, you're still our conquerors, Novak said, with a wink. But practically speaking, you're now the galaxy's most beloved celebrities. The consortium's approval rating is at an all-time high. Even species you've previously conquered are now applying for official consortium membership. Vex's exoskeleton creaked as he leaned back, processing this information. So when humans say humanity, yeah, they're not celebrating victory in battle, but victory in cultural exchange. Now you're getting it. Novak clapped his hands together. And speaking of cultural exchange, the Supreme Council called. They're thrilled with the new consortium theme parks we're building on 7 different planets. Apparently merchandise sales have funded the construction of 3 new flagships. The council approves of all this. Vex couldn't keep the surprise from his voice modulator. Are you kidding? Councilor Duz just signed a deal for his own spin-off show. Crystal clear, the Duz Dynasty. His catchphrase "that's so not conquest-worthy" is already trending across 4 quadrants. A notification chimed on Novak's personal device. He checked it and grinned. Speaking of trending, your new action figure just dropped. The one where your appendages actually squirt water. 10 trillion pre-orders in the first hour. Vex should have been mortified. Instead he found himself asking, does it come with the ceremonial cape accessory I requested? With real light-up features, Novak confirmed. The junior conquering kit for juveniles ships next month. Outside the viewport, Earth looked much as it had before the invasion, except for the constant stream of tourist vessels from across the galaxy and the enormous holographic advertisements that now orbited alongside communication satellites. The greatest change wasn't visible from space. The newly established Galactic Cultural Center, formerly the conquered government buildings, now housed representatives from every known sentient species, all working together on the next big interstellar entertainment venture. You know, Vex said thoughtfully, when the consortium sent me to conquer Earth, I expected resistance, weapons, perhaps even noble self-sacrifice. I never expected merchandising rights. That's humanity for you, Novak replied with a shrug. Why fight when you can franchise? It turns out the most powerful force in the universe isn't your quantum weaponry or our nuclear arsenals. It's a good marketing campaign. The door slid open again, and Lieutenant Krill poked his head in, his internal organs swirling with excitement. Sorry to interrupt, Commander, but the Void Collective's supreme consciousness has arrived for your scheduled dance-off. Vex rose with what could almost be described as enthusiasm. Duty calls, he told Novak. Though I still don't understand why beings of pure energy wish to engage in physical dancing competitions they cannot possibly win. Because it's fun, Novak said simply. Something the galaxy had too little of before you conquered us and we conquered your dignity. As Vex made his way to the studio where the galaxy's most enigmatic species waited to battle him in something called the Electric Slide, he received a priority transmission from Supreme Councilor Duz. Commander, the crystalline leader began formally, The Council has reviewed Earth's contribution to the consortium and has reached a unanimous decision. Should you succeed in today's ritual dance competition against the Void Collective, you are to present them with the highest honor we can bestow. They're being offered consortium membership, Vex asked, surprised. No, Duz replied, his facets twinkling with what might actually be humor. The consortium is requesting membership in their entertainment network. The contract has already been drafted. Their terms are surprisingly reasonable. As the transmission ended, Commander Vex Orion, conqueror, celebrity, and reluctant dance competition participant, finally understood the true genius of humanity's response to invasion. They hadn't fought back, they'd invited everyone to join the party. And in doing so, they'd conquered not just the consortium, but the entire galaxy. One meme, one merchandise line, one reality show at a time. Humanity. Yeah, indeed. Vex murmured to himself as he entered the studio to thunderous applause from 17 different species. The galaxy would never be the same, and despite everything, despite the embarrassment, the merchandise, and the impending dance-off with beings of pure energy, Vex found that he preferred it this way. After all, his action figure did have a really nice cape.